On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Hey everybody, we're the Benchwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
You know, I'm doing excellent. We hit a personal milestone this week. My son, on the precipice of 4, told his first Jewish joke.
Oh wow!
Today.
That's great.
Yeah.
It is April 1st, but no April Fool's jokes today. But I will share a similar story, which is that, and my family doesn't like when I talk about them on the podcast, but. We got my daughter to call my mom earlier and ask if her refrigerator was running, and then tell her to go catch it and yell April Fools. And it took her about 4 tries to get it out properly and to be understood, but it worked pretty well and it was very funny.
So the one my son said was, "Why can't you put pens in a menorah?"
Why not?
And he said, "Think about it."
Ah, okay. It's
that
a thinker, huh?
It's a thinker.
Yeah. Little kid jokes, they sort of have
Might be surrealism.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sort of accidental anti-humor to them where it's like, they have the sort of portents of a joke, but not the actual content or punchline or telling. But,
that's it. That's the joke.
Try.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Soon we'll have clearly we got to force them to listen to Benchwarmers so they understand how funny their dads are. And
I'm just hoping, I'm glad to see him coming up with his own material.
Right.
He's not telling street jokes anymore. He's coming up with his own stuff.
That's good. You don't want to get him canceled by other comedians for stealing too much jokes. Although It is the sort of nature of these sorts of jokes that they do get passed around. Anyways, we got some pretty exciting news since our last podcast.
I'll tell you what isn't a joke. The Jewish coaches of the Final Four.
That was so Gabe. Well, we got some very exciting news since our last podcast. We talked in depth about the women's and men's tournaments, March Madness, and especially the 3 men's number 1 teams that were coached by Jewish coaches. And guess what? They all made it to the Final Four.
It's really we don't want to call it the Masada, but it's the mountaintop of college basketball. And there's sort of a connection between all of them that Todd Golden, the coach of Florida, was sort of a discovery of Bruce Pearl's.
Right. And they'll be playing in one of the semifinal games. So one of them will be in the finals. One of the teams will be in the finals. And John Shire's Duke team facing Houston, which, as we mentioned before, has an Israeli player on the team. Emmanuel Sharp, who was born in Israel, son of an American basketball player, played in Israel.
But not Jewish.
But not Jewish as far as we can tell. And, quite an illustrious Final Four. So, they're sort of, it's kind of insane for 4 number 1s to make it in the first place. Like,
has that ever happened before?
It happened once, I think, that maybe like 10, 12 years ago, which I guess is good for, the bracketology sages, that they're getting it right. Like they know who the best teams are now.
I also think that, yes, that's true. The people who make the brackets, that's true. Nobody ever evaluates the performance of Selection Sunday.
Right.
Like an upset is exciting if it's an upset, not because so-and-so on the selection committee got it wrong.
Right. And I guess you could say in a perfect world, like all the favorites should sort of win, but that's not exactly what you want either.
That's when they're correct, theoretically.
Yeah. Bruce Pearl, I think it's fair to say, has been the sort of most outspoken about his Judaism, about his connection with Judaism in Israel. I know he invited the family of Adon Alexander, one of the hostages remaining captive in Gaza. He invited their family to attend one of the games recently.
Speaks in his press conferences at the end of every game about the importance of the release of the hostage.
That's right.
Hostages.
And I think that's been incredibly meaningful and moving for people. I think especially when I don't know, different people have different levels of comfortability with being an outspoken person like that. I think he sort of it comes naturally to him. He was outspoken about, just being a Tennessee fan when he was at Tennessee. Like, he's sort of a bombastic guy. And I think it's to his credit.
He's a big personality. He's a big personality. Got a lot of chutzpah.
That's right. And, there will be, so one of the coaches, at least one of the coaches will be in the final if Duke's the favorite to play Houston. So if Duke wins, then it'll definitely be a Jewish coach who wins. And I think as long as there's been an NCAA tournament, I don't know if there's been a Jewish coach who's won. I don't know.
And for anyone asking, Mike Krzyzewski, famously of Duke, is not Jewish. He has never been Jewish. He will never be Jewish. But with a ski, a lot of people think he is.
That's right. I think one of Larry Brown's Kansas teams won a championship, but that was, I think, we talked about it before. I think it was back in the 80s. Certainly before our time, but before he sort of became a more regular NBA coach. And a notable coach too. Yeah, I'm sure there were some Jewish coaches at like City College, CCNY, back in those days when they were winning championships back in the 50s. But that's a long time ago.
And similarly, again, for anyone asking, Jim Boeheim is German, not Jewish. Notable college coaches with Jewish sounding, but Eastern European names, plenty of those.
No, but it's actually amazing. I mean, we joked about this last time. That they're saying sort of something about being a NCAA college basketball coach that brings out Jews, and it's like we talked about Doug Gottlieb, but like even since then we've learned more about other basketball coach Adam Fisher at Temple, Ron Gannott at Hawaii, Jean Jacques at Cornell, Joe Pasternak at UC Santa Barbara. And a few others as well. And
as of this week, Josh Pastner at UNLV.
Exactly.
Pastner, the most camp counselor of them all, has found himself a job.
Yeah, Josh had been he had been at Georgia Tech for a couple of years and left after 2023. Memphis before that. He's been sort of doing media for the last couple of years. And now he's back at UNLV. So nice to see him try to restore that program to, Jerry Tarkanian's 1990s greatness.
I was going to say it's a Jewish sports expert going west to Las Vegas. It's like the plot of Casino all over again.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's some benefit to it. You can really shine in Las Vegas as a charismatic Jew, Mayor Oscar Goodman or Meyer Lansky.
Sam Ace Rothstein.
Sam Ace Rothstein or whoever he was actually based on,
he just needs an Italian childhood friend.
Sammy Davis Jr. There's a more savory example.
Yes, exactly. Jerry Lewis as well.
I guess so.
Jerry and Sammy. Anyway, it's a very exciting time for the Final Four. Where is the Final Four this year? Do you know? I think it's in San Antonio. I think it's at the Alamo Dome.
That's right. It's in San Antonio. They usually do it in a football stadium or like a large stadium and do it. And we should shout out there's a organization, Jewish Coaches Association, that has been organizing events at the Final Four for years. It'd be great to get someone from there to come talk to us about all they've been doing, because it is really just like it is like a really I don't know, I don't want to call it a cabal. But there is a nice little contingent of Jewish coaches, and I think it's impressive to see that continuing and to be really significant and hopefully bringing home a trophy this Final Four.
It's a beautiful thing. Before we move on to sort of the meat of the episode, talking about baseball, I have a somewhat thematic question for you. I know this is an auditory medium, but how often do you find yourself, sucked in deep to the printed, glossy world of magazines?
Pretty often. I would say I'm a fairly solid magazine reader. Still like the glossy one for a long trip or something like that, especially.
Yeah. If you like, content like us or anything about the Canadian Jewish News, Canadian Jewish News wants to celebrate and share the news of their new magazine, a beautiful, glossy, printed, handheld edition, back in print, called Scribe. It's a quarterly magazine, and best part is, like our show, it's free. So thecjn.ca cjn.ca/subscribe. Get it? Subscribe to Scribe, cjn.ca/subscribe. You can subscribe to the quarterly issues of Scribe, and get yourself sort of a beautiful cultural, it's like really the beauty and nature of a really well done ketubah, but in magazine form, and about the cultural moment of Canadian Jews in 2025.
Yeah, the magazine looks great. We'd encourage all our listeners, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do so. And you can get the new editions of the Scribe Quarterly at your door soon, free, supported by the Jewish community, as all Canadian Jewish news efforts are.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Gabe, let's turn our attention now to the dawning of a new year. I am talking, of course, about the new baseball season. We got a
time
Jewish
for the
New Year
seam
coming
heads.
up.
It's one for the seam heads.
One for the seam heads. We got a Jewish New Year of sorts coming up in a few weeks, or about 10 days, I guess, from when we're recording this, which we're really excited about. But there's a different kind of New Year for those of us who celebrate baseball, and there's obviously a love story between American Jews and baseball that has gone on forever. North American Jews and baseball. You and I are huge baseball fans. It's really exciting to see the season start again, and we want to talk mostly about the Jewish players who are participating in this year's Major League Baseball.
It's really America's real pastime, naming Jews in baseball.
That's right.
We decided to split it up this year. Jamie is going to take you through all of the hitters that we're expecting to see mash and taters with in Judaism. And I'll go with the pitchers. So, Jamie, do you want to get us why don't you lead us off?
Oh, that's good. So interesting feature for the hitters this year. Pretty much everyone we're going to talk about is on a new team. So, a lot of wandering Jews in the MLB this year. Let's take it off the top with Alex Bregman, former Bench Warmers guest. He was on our show last year.
Friend of the pod and salsa magnet.
Friend. Yeah, that's right. Salsa magnet. Alex Bregman has a new home in Boston. He's their everyday starting third baseman. He signed a huge deal. He is going to be paid somewhere between $30 and $40 million for the next 5 years. He can opt out after 3 years, I think, but probably won't. But he's going to be getting a huge amount of money over the next couple of years. And he is going to continue to do what he does. He had a bit of an injury in 2021. Since then, he has been among the better hitters in the league. Consistent, drives the ball, puts a lot of power into it. 20 home runs, 20 double guy, no problem.
As a right-handed hitter, he has picked ballparks that are very favorable to right-handed hitters, which is a very canny move. And I think he'll do a lot of damage, ripping doubles off that left field wall in Boston. And there's a huge, we sort of joked last episode when he signed, like if he was going to live in Newton or Brookline. But when he's going to be very popular in those places. Boston's got a very large and proud Jewish community. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be, if he continues to, as we know he will, wear his religion proudly. I think he's going to have a really, really successful few years there, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned that. He's had about 100 plate appearances in Boston throughout his career. He's a career 375 hitter at Fenway. Compare that to he's about a lifetime 270 hitter at Minute Maid Park, where he played with the Astros. So obviously that will probably adjust to the average a little bit. But he is a guy who can absolutely rip doubles off the Green Monster. And that's fantastic. Like you can have a long career in Boston just doing that. And I think it's going to go great for him. Moving on from Alex, we got Matt Mash Mervis. He's a young guy still, only 26 years old, about to turn 27. Been part of Team Israel and caught on with the Cubs the last couple of years. To 2023, I think it was sort of like, the job is yours if you can get it, but didn't really hold on. Last year, only a cup of coffee, and got traded this offseason to the Marlins, where I think he's going to be in the mix to play a fair amount at first base. And
fairly young to have been
shipped
to Florida for a Jew.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I think this is a guy who had a lot of potential, came up as a relatively heralded prospect and hasn't translated into the bigs yet. There's
change of
still
scenery is often good
guy.
for those guys.
Exactly. That's a real theme for the guys that we're talking about today, where coming off down years, but change of scenery, hopefully going to be better. Harrison Bader is another guy who's moving on now with the Twins, previously with the Mets, previously with the Reds and the Yankees. And he, coming off again, starting pretty much, not a terrible year for him. Hit 236, but 12 home runs and pretty decent fielding, like can field center, which is probably the most important thing defensively.
And played close and late in a lot of playoff games. Was brought in as a pinch runner, defensive replacement at the end of the season, wearing his big honkin' Magen David on his belt all throughout the season and the playoffs. So he's another proud guy.
Yeah, hit a home run already this year for the Twins. So we'll see how it goes for Harrison with a change of scenery. A former hometown star that we're very fond of, the big boy Rowdy Tellez, very unceremoniously sort of dumped by the Pirates at the end of last season to avoid paying him some salary bonus. He is caught on with the Mariners now. He is, again, sort of probably going to be a platoon first baseman, occasional DH for them. Last 2 years, not so great. 13 home runs in each of his last 2 years, playing, almost every day. 2022 was sort of the high water mark, and he had 35 home runs. He is sort of, a power bat off the bench, someone you can pinch hit when you want to get a sac fly or a home run. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, Seattle's a team that's really trying to make the playoffs, trying to compete this year. Rowdy's 30. I think this is sort of towards the end of the rope that he's getting. But great to see that he's got a major league contract. Yeah, but it's a guy who we know what he can do. 100 career homers. Obviously, he can drive the ball. He can connect with it. He can get on a real hot streak and try to demand some playing time. And the last two guys I want to talk about who are active right now are two guys in Texas. Texas, of all places, now has two Jewish starters or occasional starters on their roster. First, of course, is Jock Peterson, moving from Arizona to Texas. Jock has somehow, since leaving the Dodgers, become like a rent-a-player where he's just like continually signing 1 or 2 year deals and taking teams to the World Series, more or less, or the playoffs. And, it's been a couple years where he hasn't been to the playoffs, I guess, with Arizona last year and the Giants before that. But he has the 2 World Series rings in 2020 and 2021. Texas, I think, looking to be competitive this year in the AL West. Try to make it back to the playoffs after winning the World Series 2 years ago. And Jock is pretty much going to be their starting DH. I mean, there's no such thing as a starting DH anymore, really. Like, people move around a lot, but he had a very solid year last year. He had 23 home runs. He had an OPS that over 900, which I would say is like pretty,
that's pretty
above
good.
average,
That's
solidly
borderline
above
elite.
average. Yeah. So, we'll see if he can get back to his sort of all-star numbers from a few years ago. But, this is, again, 33 years old this year, moving into the twilight of his career, obviously still going to contribute, be a mentor to guys in the pen. And alongside him, I would say, is another veteran presence and former Blue Jay, Kevin Pillar, who I'm shocked it didn't retire. I'm amazed that he was able to get a contract, but that is fantastic.
I think he thought he would.
Yeah. He's already been productive. He's got 3 hits and 6 plate appearances this year. I think he had 2 hits on opening day against Boston. Kevin is, I think, going to be like a real clubhouse presence for anywhere that he is. I've heard good things about him from anywhere that he's played. Teammates were effusive with talking about, you have a veteran like that who can really rub off on players. This is a guy whose MLB career started in 2013. Like he has been around. He has been on, probably 8 or 9 different teams at this point. If he can contribute,
and he must be a well-liked guy because he's always around.
And I think a lot of these guys, there's a through element that you can see that you can see that doing one thing really well is critical for ball players.
Mhm.
Like Harrison Bader and Pilar can both play center still, even into their 30s. Like that's huge. Like a lot of outfielders
That's a difficult
can't,
thing.
or sort of embarrass themselves out there.
Mhm.
Other guys like Rowdy or Jock, they can drive the ball. They can put a charge into it, and that means a lot. So yeah, 2 Jews on the Rangers. I would never suggest that anyone support the Texas Rangers baseball team, but if you want to watch some Jewish players, tune into a Rogers broadcast and to a Rangers broadcast, and you might see Kevin Pillar and Jock Peterson. Gabe, just before we get on to the pitchers, there's two other players currently on the IL I did want to mention. The first is no longer Oakland A's Zach Geloff. Zach is, he has the job as the second baseman for the A's whenever he comes back, but he broke his hamate bone, sort of in his hand or wrist.
That doesn't
not
sound
clear
very kosher. I'm sorry, I heard hamate, and that was the only thing I could come up with.
It's the ate ham. He didn't eat ham. If you ate ham, that's not kosher. Your ham
That's not kosher.
Is fine.
It's the hamate. Okay.
So Zach had, you remember this great rookie season where he came in late and like was as good as anyone. Like he hit 14 home runs in like
just
a month.
Exploded.
Last year was his first year as a everyday starter, and he led the league in strikeouts. So it's not what you want. It is also understandable and acceptable for a guy on a really crummy team to strike out a lot. That means you don't have line of protection or anything like that. Now he gets to be, I'm gonna say probably along with some legislators, maybe one of the few Jews in Sacramento. Don't come at me if I'm wrong and there's actually been like a 200-year history of Jews in Sacramento. I apologize. But yeah, he gets to go with the A's to Sacramento as soon.
We're not really
healthy.
an interior mountain people.
My understanding of Sacramento is that it's like nobody wants to be there. It's just like that's where the legislature is, and like there's not a whole lot else going on.
Arnold, if you ever watched the television program The Mentalist, it took place in Sacramento.
That seems like that was a tax break, or they actually shot it in Vancouver, and it looked.
I think they did shoot it in Vancouver.
And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to friend of the pod, Spencer Horowitz. Spencer's been a Team Israel stalwart. He we were at an event a few months ago, the Canadian premiere of Israel Goes for Gold, the documentary about Team Israel at the Olympics. And Spencer had committed to attending at the event prior to being traded by the Blue Jays to the Cleveland Guardians and then the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he was still good enough to zoom into the call and attend. Real mensch. And he suffered a wrist injury. It sounds like he'll be back by the end of this month if all goes well with his rehab.
And he's going to be the starting second baseman.
I guess we'll see. He can play a few different positions now. He can play first. They tried him out in the outfield, I think, a little bit in the minors, but not so much in the majors. So we'll see how it goes with Pittsburgh. It's a rebuilding team, I guess, sort of consummately rebuilding team. But I think he's going to get a lot of run with the Pirates. So excited to see what he does there when he's back from injury. Gabe, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the pitchers we can watch this year?
There's 3 pitchers currently in the major leagues that have made the major leagues, and a whole bunch more that are sort of on the precipice in the minors. So we'll start with probably the biggest splash, the biggest superstar Jewish pitcher, which is Max Fried, who very much adorably so is trying to grow a mustache as he is pitching for the Yankees. Previously he was a goatee and long hair guy, sort of long-ish hair. He's a LA kid. People thought he would go home, but no, he chose to go to New York, the center of the universe, and is, I guess, maybe now that Garrett Cole is hurt for the season, might be the Yankees' de facto ace.
I think pretty much. I think he's their best starter for sure.
He's a hugely successful pitcher. A strange thing happened in his first game. Max Fried is a 3-time Gold Glove winner. He's one of the best fielding baseball players in the world. Pitchers really anywhere. And he committed an error in his first game as a Yankee. He has only had more than one error in a season once, but he's got it out of the way. So that error is out of the way. And now, he can settle down and start pitching even better in the Yankees. He only pitched 4 innings and sort of the game got out of control for both teams. But we're really cheering for Max as much as it pains me to support the Yankees. I like Max Fried, and I'm hoping he does well, just not against the Blue Jays or any other Jewish players for that matter. The same goes with Alex Bregman. We've got a couple of big machers in our division now, and it's a bit tough.
And we should say as well. I mean, we talked about Bregman's big deal. Max Fried's deal was the biggest deal a Jewish sports player or athlete has ever signed, as far as I can tell. Yeah. It was 8 years and $218 million. I'm assuming not by mistake that they got that number there.
I would hope
really
so.
Funny to think of rounding down or up a few $1 million to 218 to make it work. Like, sometimes like you'll see a house listed or sold,
and the last number
price
18.
will be like, exactly. It'll be like 1.36 million and $18 at the end. And this is like, no, we gave you an extra 3 million just to make it nice. I really like that idea.
I wonder if, when he was negotiating, he told Hal Steinbrenner, he was like, listen, I don't know how much time you spent with Jewish people, but I will only sign if you do me this.
Right.
And maybe that's, hey, if we got to find out the name of his agent and then see if it makes sense. Anyway, next we've got Orioles pitcher Dean Kramer. Took the team, pitched in the playoffs the last couple of seasons, is not their ace, but is sort of a front of the rotation starter and an innings eater. Dean pitched against the Blue Jays and had a not bad start. But he's looking to win a lot of games this year. The Orioles are very, very, very good. And sort of going through this now between Bregman and Fried, the AL East sort of is the Jewish superstar division.
That's true.
And
it wouldn't be surprising if we got a Fried versus Kramer matchup at some point.
Absolutely.
In regular season, they meet.
And that would be excellent. We got to get Garrett Stubbs in to catch one of them.
We should say Garrett Stubbs is currently in the minors. I think he probably will make the majors at some point this year.
Just sort of a two-way contract guy.
Yeah.
And the third, he has yet to get into a game as of right now, is Jake Bird, who is sort of a middle reliever for the Colorado Rockies. Living in Denver seems lovely, especially in the summer. Another friend of the pod, Ryan Lavarnway, has made his home in Denver for a long time. He knows Jake through Team Israel baseball. We're obviously rooting for Jake Bird. Maybe he can get into that closer role. It seems pretty up for grabs in Colorado right now. As long as, somebody could stand up. Want to give you a couple of updates on, there are a couple of Jewish players in the minors we want to follow and a couple of Jewish players who have left the major leagues. Maybe the best named Jewish player, Bobby Rossman, which is, to make it even better, his name is Irving. So he's Irving Bobby Rossman. He is currently pitching in Aguascalientes in Mexico. A member of the 2023 World Baseball Classic team. He's pitching, in Mexico. And the other one would be Kenny Rosenberg. Who also, has a pretty spectacular baseball name. Kenny Rosenberg, we've talked about him many times. Sounds like the name of a news anchor. He is currently pitching in Korea. He started in Korea and is in the KBO, made his debut, I think, a couple of days ago. Got lit up a bit, but, I think he'll settle down and figure it out. The other, two Jews to watch out for, sort of in the rising stars, young prospects area. The New York Yankees have a AAA starter right now, Eric Reiselman. He was from LSU, played with Paul Skeens, throws 100 miles an hour.
Pitched a bunch at Yankee spring training, got some good looks there. Yeah.
And he is expected to maybe make a spot start here and there at some point this season. But, he did not make the team out of camp, but if not this year, will absolutely be in the majors this year, next year, as long as he continues his trajectory. Again, it's tiring. Any guy that throws 100 miles an hour is going to get a look. And a 6'3", 180 pounds Jewish guy. Love it. And then similarly, he's a little bit older, he's 25, another 6'3", massive dude, Max Lazar, or is it Laser?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Laser?
I think
it's
Lazar. Yeah.
Yeah. But Laser is a wicked name for a pitcher.
Max Laser would be quite a name.
Yeah. Max Laser. If his Max Lazar, again, if he was 90, I would believe that was his name, or Laser Max, but Max Laser, hopefully we get to see him get called up for the Phillies this year. I think he's yet to be pitched, maybe a handful in the major league, is yet to really settle himself. But with any luck, he's going to get he'll get a good, his time this year. Yeah, last year he pitched 11 games in the majors, didn't start any. This year he's come into one game, struck out 2 guys in 1 inning. So hopefully he'll get a call up soon.
A lot of exciting Jewish baseball players to watch. I want to shout out as well the recent announcement that Israel's baseball team, which of course is returning to the World Baseball Classic in 2026, will continue to be managed by Ian Kinsler. Ian committed to managing through the 2026 WBC. It's a lot of work assembling the team. I think we're going to have some interesting announcements, I hope, in the next year, I guess. I don't know when people will start committing, but I'm hoping that some of the players we've talked about are going to commit to playing for Israel at the World Baseball Classic. And that is going to be a hugely exciting thing to follow next year and continue to keep an eye on, of course. The
news is leaked about the group chat. We've talked about the group chat that we know Bregman, Fried, and Peterson are in together talking about maybe playing for Israel. So with luck, who knows?
There's 6 hitters we just talked about, most of whom have played for Team Israel in the past. Rowdy Tellez has played for Mexico previously, and I don't, honestly, I don't know if he would be on the Mexican team or maybe choose to play for Israel if that was an option. There's some other minor leaguers who would have a shot, or maybe even some guys who have retired not that long ago. But it's exciting to see the team come together. I know that there is a real community spirit towards doing that. And I think it's going to be something exciting to watch, and it's going to be a good team again, hopefully a competitive team. Before we go, Gabe, I wanted to quickly mention and take a quick look at something that was sent in by a listener named Henry Shipper. Henry wrote a book of poetry about baseball. He is a journalist and a filmmaker in Los Angeles. The book is called The Ball Dreams of the Sky. It is sort of allegorical, autobiographical book of poetry, some of which talk about his parents' experience as survivors, and lots of great blurbs in the book, including from a few former guests. Small world of Jews and sports,
Jewish sports people.
Howard Megdal, who was previously on the show. Justine Siegel quoted as well there. So check it out. Henry Shipper, The Ball Dreams of the Sky. Before we go, I think we'll take a quick detour to literary corner, and I'm gonna do my best NPR voice reading of one of his poems.
I can't see, but I'm snapping my fingers into my microphone.
Yes, from the early inning section, fittingly to start off the year. The title of this poem is Glove. The glove was a bribe for coming to Hawaii to help with my sister. She was a handful, and I, 2 years younger, the safety valve. It was a Wilson A2040, a big league mitt, or close enough, to make me swoon. It was an extravagance beyond belief, $40, as much as a Schwinn, and it wasn't supposed to, but it fit my 11-year-old fingers, which were somehow full grown, and feeling the grooves, searchingly, the subtle softness of leather inside, it touched me. Let me know I was ready, shifted me to a confidence that I could catch anything that came my way. In Honolulu, that would be easy. The scent and softness of the breeze carried possibilities unimaginable. In Detroit, you could pick mangoes straight off the trees, dream fruit with suede soft skin that woke up something new, like the skin of the glove that waited for my hand. Well,
it's a lovely poem.
Yeah. If you're of the old school and you decide to make a Paschal sacrifice of some sort this Passover season, be aware that, that skin might make a good glove for a child somewhere. If you want to take it real old school here.
Very true. It's very true. I also think that, not only is it a beautiful poem, but you have to sort of point out the Judaism inherent in the part about being annoyed by your family.
Yeah.
And especially the Passover part of it. Have a wonderful Seder, everybody.
Yeah, have a wonderful Seder, everyone. Recommend this podcast to your uncles and cousins and nieces and nephews and everybody else at your Passover Seder. This is good family listening, and you want to know who the Jews are, so you can.
You want to know who the Jews are. Sitting around the yet to have broken the Afikomen with a speaker on top, listening to the Menschwarmers.
What, is that not how your family does Seder?
Yeah, it is. No, it's how my family does it, but I'm on the show.
But you're on the show. Anyways, thanks again for listening. As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. The Canadian Jewish News can be found online at thecjn.ca.
CJN.ca.
Look around there for Menschwarmers, and follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers for lots of tweets, and I'm sure live tweeting the semifinals of the of Final Four. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll be back with you as soon as we start counting the Omer. We'll be back with you.
Good lag Omer.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.